right, so this is the dashboard of Raising the Bar. This is what it's going to look like from a student perspective, and this is how it's set up. Currently, it's at about 145 lessons, but I'm going through and I'm revising some of it. I'm very much so a chef through and through, right? So nothing to me is ever really done. So again, if I see something that seems a little dated or that seems like I've learned a little bit more about the subject, I'll go back, I'll revise the lesson. This is a program that's available online anytime you want it. It's set up so that you can go through it at your own pace. Grow Model is the course in and of itself, 14 modules. You immediately hop into the introduction and module 1, right? So the introduction takes you through some of the basics that you need to go through, right? So this is the online course, basically how to use. So actually, I'm gonna play this real quick. It's a minute-long video.
Hey there. In this, I'm going to show you how to make your way around this online course. What you're looking at here is the course player. Yours might look a little different than mine here. Your instructor has probably customized this to make sure that you have the best learning experience. On the left here, you can see all the lessons in this course. You can open and close chapters and click on lessons to view them. This is a video lesson, and you can press play to start watching it. When you're finished, you can select this button to mark it complete and continue on. Your overall progress in this course is here. There are lesson options in this part of the course player, and you can join in discussions if your instructor has them enabled for this course. Leave a post or reply to a thread to join the conversation. You can get back to your student dashboard and account settings by selecting this button. That's all for now. Happy learning.
Here's the progress bar, and then the various module bars are all here. So that was the introduction. And again, just a quick little summary as to how to use the platform. Introduction is a lot of the fundamental base works of the course, some sponsor stuff that's helped me out, recommendations and resourcefulness for how to streamline your life and get your work organized so you can be more successful. And then I like to start the whole process with a skills assessment and then finish it with a skills assessment as well, because it's important to me to see growth, right? After you go through I call them housekeeping items, but there's a little bit more to it than that. It's stuff to really make this process simpler. After the housekeeping stuff, get into building a foundation, because for me, I think that's obviously the best place to start. Every module has an overview. There is a overview and a flow that is going to take place for the whole course. And then things that I've done to help support me in my organization and to help me be more efficient in my day-to-day work. So therefore I could compete, prepare for the MasterChef exam, pass the CEC exam. You're brainstorming. It's always important to have a good perspective of where you want to go. And I encourage taking the time to brainstorm. Again, as you're looking at building a culinary program, what could you possibly do? And I think it's important to kind of be ridiculous in the beginning. So I talk through my stages of brainstorming. I go through my process for streamlining work. I talk through like how I look at building a support team when working on projects, when working on special team stuff or culinary Olympic stuff, CEC stuff. You're going to want people around you who are supporting you to get ready. You can do it alone, absolutely. But you're going to be more effective if you have somebody who's taking care of your pots and pans, who's going to be taking care of your dishes, who's going to be working with you. And not only that, but then you groom them, grow them, and you prepare them better to do the same thing that you're doing. That's a component that I feel like we've lost a little bit in the world that we're in, because it's just something that we've lost. We've forgotten that, promoting from within is a much stronger way to go about things than hiring outside, because I guess staff turnover is what it is. And if that's your focus, which it sounds to me like your focus is on building the people around you, it's a great tool to build the people around you, right? All of the lessons look a bit like this. Each module has a different cover. And then as you saw, the complete and continue will allow you to go on. There's some lessons that are marked as required, and that way I know that you're making the progress and getting through the lessons to get to the next lesson. So once you're done with module 1, the following Monday, the next module will drip out. So it drips on Mondays. I can change the drip schedule. I just try to break out the work, an hour and a half's worth of lesson here. And then there's about approximately, depending on how much time you set aside for it, 45 minutes to an hour of active work for you as it applies to the course. I understand the busy life of a chef, and I've tried to pack it in as tight as possible to concentrate it so that if you want to stay on top of this, you can take 15 minutes in the morning and you can watch a video. Or if you want to take 10 minutes during your day and watch a video, you can watch a lesson at lunchtime and you can go about your business. One of the chefs in the program right now, he tells me that he lets the videos scroll in the background while he's doing other work. And so instead of listening to YouTube, like he scrolls it in the background and he just hears new things. So I've never really thought of doing that, but I don't know. I'm flattered that he does that, and I think it's awesome that he finds it that useful. These lessons, you can go back and review them as many times as you want to. Another thought that I had in my head was, as you're going through the lessons, if you find something that you want to integrate, especially when it comes to like being in the kitchen, scaling recipes, and you want to take your iPad and set it on your station, you can set it up right in front of you, hit play, and then do the work that's in there. This is about the support systems. It's about the programming. It's about building yourself to make it efficient for you to make the progress and get the growth that you want. And then it's the tools and the systems to grow, right? And ideally, at the end of this process, you're going to be able to walk away with this with some tools that you incorporate to help you maintain some perpetual growth in your career. You can always, like I said, come back to this module, to this lesson, anytime you want. And then once you sign up, any of the edits you'll have access to, or any of the additions you'll have access to. So you'll be part of a specific mailing group, and then I'll send out a mailing and say, for module 2, I just tweaked a new lesson. I just added everything is an evolution. You know, I liked the module, but I thought that this was a really cool way to add to that module. So now everything is an evolution is a part of that module. I suggest you go get some more value out of it. Again, my goal here is for you to have zero doubt that you're getting value from the course. And that's why I've made it completely risk-free. And that's been a philosophy of mine. I just haven't really expressed it and made it open. So, you know, you can get through module 4, which is about a month of coursework. And if you find that there's nothing useful in it, you can just email me, let me know you want a refund and that it's not worth your time, and I'll give you your full refund. You know what I mean? Like I'm behind it 100%. I have zero doubt of the value of this, but I've got to allow everybody to feel that on their own, right? And that's cool for me. I understand like anywhere between $1,800 and $3,500 as an investment for the course is no small investment. But I promise that I've put tons of effort into making this totally worth the value. So the mind game is all about, you know, getting the question, getting the mindset tools to overcome the game that our minds play with us, right? Inevitably, we all run into doubt. We all run into issues of time and energy and questioning ourselves. Look, I've done it before. I do it as well. But here are some tactics as to what I've done to overcome those. At the CMC exam, look, 90% of passing that exam is getting out of your head and getting into the kitchen. So that's the focus of the mind game. When we get into ingredients, it's all about craft mastery perspective. How a master chef would look at and handle primary and secondary ingredients. Oh, we talk about why they're called that, why I called them that. One of my favorite projects that I've ever come across is the Onion Project. The Onion Project, it nudges you to find an ingredient that's less sexy and make it that way. Utilize that base resource and make it awesome. I offer and share with you some really cool scaling tricks and kitchen techniques from the Olympics that totally work in the day-to-day. For me, if you work on something for a project, for a certification, or for competition that you can't apply, then it's a total waste of your time. So everything here, in order for it to be here, my filter makes it necessary to require that it's applicable. So then, as you get out of ingredients and maybe pick up some new perspectives there that maybe enhance where you're at or add some new ideas to where you're at, then we can head into some of the office work, like less pretty, totally not sexy, but completely necessary to getting organized, getting a budget written for a project so you can ask for what you need and get what you want, get what you need, and have a solid prediction of where you're trying to get to, and have a solid commitment from your employer so that you don't have to worry about it. And then I put in some other things that are really useful. Butcher yield test, recipe costing, we've all seen it, but we've all seen things in a lot of cases earlier on in our career, especially as a student. Well, when I went and worked at the Everglades Club, I found myself in a very different environment where we treated recipe costing at a much higher level. So when you got master chefs who are getting together and talking about recipe costing, this is where you end up. This is the lesson that you end up with. And for me, that's a really powerful tool. And again, I want to share, like I said, everything that I know so that, again, you can implement it into your organization. This is the stuff in the office that's going to help free up the time so you can make time in the kitchen and work on those projects. Work on your CEC certification. Compete if you want to. Or spend more time in the kitchens cooking with your cooks than being an admin in the office. How can you streamline that process in the office so that you can be in the kitchen doing what it is that got you in the industry in the first place? At least that's my story, right? Like, I got so frustrated working in the office and spending the endless hours in the office and not being in the kitchen where I wanted to be, where I needed to be, and trying to find the balance between the two, because there is no balance. The only way is to really get more organized and move forward, right? So then coming out of the office, we start getting into the fundamentals of cooking. When was the last time you had a really solid conversation about the fundamentals of cooking? When was the last time that you evaluated your fundamentals? And there's a lot of messages and lessons in here talking about how do you gauge your fundamentals? Honoring the fundamentals. It's why I named the lesson, the module, the way that I did, is because it's about honoring the past. It's about looking at those key techniques that really drive home what food is all about. Food is about flavor first, aesthetic second. And we live in an Instagram world now, and unfortunately, because of that Instagram world, we see a lot of nonsense, bullshit food that doesn't have any substance or soul, right? And it's cool. Yeah, it looks cool. But come on, man. Like, it's cold. Like, there's no way that's hot. So, again, to me, it's about going back to the fundamentals. This was a real big piece for me. And now that I've passed the exam, now that I've passed the Master Chef exam, it's become even more apparent to me that people need to talk about fundamentals more. The further we get from fundamentals, the further we get from the groundwork that makes what we do legitimate. Next, we get into building the program, right? In here are really specific tools and the process for building a practice program for competition, for the CEC exam. So you can organize yourself, and this is the system that I use to practice for everything. Going through making sure that I'm hitting the specific marks. I get my program built. I talk about using Siri a little bit because she helps me out. When I don't have staff or when it's late night and I need somebody to take notes for me, I just yell at my iPad and she takes notes for me. A lot of people don't think of it, but I had to, right? Because I was working in a place at the time where I couldn't get staff. I couldn't get anybody to stay. And then talk about using timers a little bit more. Just little reminders that I think we get away from because, again, we're not in the kitchen every day cooking like the cooks that we employ, that we talk to. Talking about, building a timeline that works for you as opposed to a timeline that you don't completely understand. Going into specifics of equipment list and making sure you have what you need, building food packing lists. And for me, in the building the program, it's all about setting yourself up so that you're not missing something when you go to certification. Then after building it, you're going to want to go through and systemize it. So you get your first run set up, then how I treat my first practice, how I treat my subsequential practices, running, how to focus on specific things with running, my practice structure, how I practice, why I practice the way that I do. And again, these are things that I did really poorly in the beginning, going for my CEC or then trying out for Chef of the Year and falling on my face. And, there's things, this is the culmination of those things starting, 15 years ago, and now having worked through them and developed them. So you certainly don't need to be at the Olympic team level to apply these techniques. In fact, these are tried and tested in Germany. But now, if I knew these things 15 years ago, oh God, I wish this was available. I really do. And that's, again, why I've taken the time and effort. And so I was super excited to come back from Germany and be like, you know what? I'm putting this out and I'm going to pull this together because people need to know this, because I want you to finish better than me, right? Then, cool trick for making labels. This is one of those, competition and certification specific lessons. But everybody makes labels, right? Everybody makes labels. They write them one at a time or they print them one at a time. I like to use mail merge to make all my labels for all of my little dishes, my little cups, my, whatever that may be. So that my mise en place ends up getting printed with these perfect labels, but I don't spend more than 20 minutes doing it after I have my recipes done. I'm not spending 4 days writing labels. Using technology in a way that we never did, but is totally relevant and makes our life easier, right? So, and I ended up Googling it. I was like, how does mail merge work? There's gotta be a way. And sure enough, I found a way. It was ugly in the beginning, and I don't mind going through those first steps of just being ugly and doing it dirty and getting it done the first time around. And then just refining and revising and working through those versions, right? The moment you throw out the fact that, you're worried about that first version, the better you are. There's a quote that I go back to all the time, and it's a Hemingway quote, that the first draft of anything is shit. And he's so right, it just is. And if you accept that, then it's so much easier. You become less worried, that the first time you cook that menu for CEC certification, right? Okay, it's probably not going to be what you need it to be. But if you're focusing on the right things in 6 to 8 practices, it could be exactly where you need it to be. In 5, if you're focusing and taking the feedback that you get, who knows where you can be, right? Yeah. After that, we get into fun with a little bit of flavor. So some methods that I've developed over the years to enhance and develop further flavors. I guess a little spoiler alert in the dehydrator, lesson. I love taking random ingredients, dehydrating them, and turning them into powders. So, that's, the uniquely flavored powders episode. where powdered hot sauce, take Frank's, reduce it down, turn it into a dry powder, and then you can use Frank's as a seasoning, because Frank's isn't just cayenne, right? Like, it's got other ingredients. It's got a little bit of salt, and it's really cool when you can take that ingredient that totally tastes like Frank's and then incorporate it into many other things. So, here's some of my favorites, and they're all geared to be sparks so that you can kind of take that mindset and totally evolve it. Like, I love talking about where you take these things. Why not? Why wouldn't I? I just get to learn. And that's one of the cool things of having developed this platform is I get to learn just as much as my students do. And I'm always excited to learn more. So then after evolving flavor, we go back to tweaking the program a little bit. After you've done some practices, what are some things you can do to tweak a culinary program, your competition program, your certification program? And then all of these things, again, tie into station work. Talk about cutting steps in mise en place and stacking dry spices. It may seem a little specific for exam, but your cooks can totally benefit from that. Same thing with combining liquids, understanding hydrocolloids a little bit more. And then obviously going back to some particulars, competitor's book and the judge's book, which you're going to need if you're competing, how I've done mine. So you spend a little bit more time there. You can skip over the lessons if you want to, but I don't know. In my world, there's a ton to learn in there as well. Then most people don't know how to pack and travel with food. Well, I've done it twice a month for the last 4 years. And so here you go. Here's what I've learned from the last 4 years of that. And if it's, it starts with getting your list together, finding your packing materials, what you need to do in order to pack and travel with non-perishables, vacuum packing. Some of these lessons are a little bit longer because there's quite a bit here, but it's all about how you're going to build this stuff, how you're going to fill up a cooler, the travel tote that everyone on the team eventually rolled with. And my travel tote has tons of miles on it because I've been dragging it all around. And it's a pretty simple $60 build. And if you've got a maintenance department, you can totally have them do it. But one of the cool things is Rosendale built one in 2001, and I took it as a hand-me-down. It went to another chef, and then another chef, and then another chef, and then one of my chefs gave it to me, and it went to Germany with me. So they last, and they're these really great Sterilite containers, and that information's here in the course as to how you can build it, what the stuff is, where you can find it. Again, stuff that isn't really commonly available, but here. And it's relevant if you're going to travel on a plane, or if you find yourself going and doing private dinners or wine dinners or traveling with food, you never really know. Gear recommendations, packing and traveling with plates. Then, getting into packing the tote, travel considerations, how to plan for the work that you're going to need to do here. There's setup lessons on how I set up my knife tray. Again, you have your own style, but it helps to see somebody who's been there do it. I can totally relate. And a lot of those lessons came to me the hard way by trial and error and figuring it out and trying to get better every step of the way. It's very simple and very easy to spend a lot of time trying to figure things out. Trying to figure things out when you don't necessarily have to, right? So then we get into food photography. I always talk about documenting everything. These are 4 really clear lessons on how to take better photos, how to make your work better, more effective, clearer, so that you have photos that you can use for marketing, so that you have photos that you can use for Instagram, And you don't need a camera. A lot of it is, I talk about cameras, yes, but I also talk about using your cell phone. And there's a lot of work that I still do with my cell phone. But I think there's a benefit to both of those, right? If you're trying to do different marketing stuff, it helps to have something a little higher in the range of a camera, whose job is to be a camera. And for the most part, though, you can really make a world of difference with a cell phone and a little handheld light. A little handheld light. Lighting is what makes all the difference in the world of photography anyway. But again, you could spend, half an hour in this module and change the way you take all of your pictures. Then module 12 is links and resources. There's a few lessons in here that I didn't know where to put into the course, honestly. And so I kind of put some of the other lessons that I wanted as part of the course. Didn't know where to put. They didn't necessarily fit the other lessons, but they really drive home some great messages. Cryovac uses. The four methods or the four processes that I use the cryovac for, be it marinating or flash marinating, flash pickling, sealing. A cool training lesson that you can also use with your staff. Then recommended software. There's a little post assessment, and then the course conclusion includes some podcast work and closing thoughts, where to from here. And it's all about community, right? So once you sign up, you're part of the community. You can be part of the Facebook group if you opt in. If not, that's cool. We're still in contact. You still have access to me. So in a nutshell, that's raising the bar. But 2 hours you will definitely be able to sit, watch the lesson, integrate, take the actions that are given into the work, and then implement it in your day-to-day in the kitchen. If you enroll today, it'll open up the introduction in module 1, and then next Monday module 2 will open up, and then the following Monday module 3. And you can always go back. And then once you're through the course, you have access to the whole course, all the course at any time, forever. So yeah, once you buy the course is yours. And then there's 3 levels of the course, right? There's the grow, the build, and the implement. So the implement is the highest price investment for the course. 6 coaching sessions. They're 90 minutes, really focusing on a particular module or particular process. You want to focus your 6 coaching sessions on getting ready for passing the CEC exam, then that's totally possible. Normally what I do is I have a 6-session package that I sell separately. In order for me to be able to invest in you, I need you to invest in me. My goal is to allow you to trust me that the value is there, right? So in addition to that, there's a 90-minute deep dive into the assessment, 6 months of growth and development live, which is the live component that kind of sisters with raising the bar. It's Sunday and Mondays we do a live masterclass and mastermind group where chefs, very much so like you, on the path of CEC certification, competition, CMC certification, building culinary programs, culinary teachers, we get together and we talk about industry relevant topics, and we talk about specifics from raising the bar. There's different pricing options available. You can pay it one time, you can pay it 3 months, and if you need special pricing, I can adjust and adapt if necessary. That you can take more of it by focusing on this week. But if my student wants to go faster, then I'm absolutely, I can switch that, I can turn that switch off, and I can allow you to go at your pace, right? even though the modules drip weekly, you're not behind unless you decide in your mind you're behind, if that makes sense, right? So like if you need to put it on the shelf for a couple of days, you can. Generally, I have some check-ins. So after you sign up, after like 4 weeks, I'm very interested in my students being successful with the program. I need you to be able to implement this. I'm not going to stay in business if this is useless to you. You know what I mean? So I usually check in with my students and say, hey, how's it going? Are you stuck? Is there something that doesn't make sense? And then check in. But other than that, like it's, you can go at your own pace.
If you've reached the point where you're ready to burn your boats and get started with raising the bar, reach out. Let's get on a call. Let me answer whatever questions you may have, and let's get you started. See you inside.